Hello YouTube, and this is the review of Dying Light, brought to you by me, Biggles, Sir Biggles 520. And Dying Light is a fun little open world zombie game developed by Techland, the same people who did Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide, of which you may or may not have enjoyed, and will kind of influence whether or not you will enjoy this game. It is being published by Warner Brothers Studios, and without further ado, let's break into the game. Starting off, story-wise, it's an entertaining story. You know, with a zombie game, you never really have like a solid-based good story anyway. You play as Kyle Crane, an agent hired by the GRE to go into Haran, which is this city that has had this mysterious viral outbreak happen, which is producing zombies. The virus itself doesn't really have a name. It is pretty much a variant of rabies. They're going down that path. And with that, produced running zombies and all that, mutations of zombies, which are pretty much most of which you've seen from Dead Island. Also with the virus, they have Antizin, which is not quite a vaccine, but more of a suppressant. It keeps the virus at bay. It's developed by a GRE, and they're constantly dropping it in to Haran to help keep any survivors alive. But there's currently questioning whether or not anyone is still alive within the city. Back on track, you're Crane, you're dropped in, you're specifically looking for a file made by the GRE that may be in possession by an unknown faction, but it is likely a man called Rice, who is the leader of a kind of rebellious bad guy faction that are kind of just muscling their way around the survivors, pressuring them for money and supplies, while also hoarding all supplies that are airdropped in by the GRE. And starting off, you kind of parachute down, and through a rather ridiculous amount of things, such as you not properly using your goddamn weapon and such, you become infected yourself. You are quickly saved by members of Brecken's Tower, which are essentially the good people that are the survivors, and through the loss of one of their own, they manage to actually save you. And feeling indebted, / also having your own ulterior motives of still looking for the file, you join their group. And whilst doing that, they kind of develop a bond amongst each other, and eventually he decides to turn his back on the GRE and focus more on trying to actually save people rather than trying to always look for the file. But that's going to go ahead and end story discussion there. Not really spoiler anywhere there that you can't find within the first 20-30 minutes or so. But I'll leave that up to you guys to actually play. Breaking off into the kind of setting of the game looks fantastic. It is a beautiful looking game. Haran's a pretty funny city. Not funny, wow. Anyway, not gonna edit it out. One take. Screw it. One take and done. Haran has 3 areas that you visit in the game. There's the slums, which takes part for about half the game, the first half of your game. And then you eventually move over to Old Town, which has more buildings. It's got more verticality where you can stay off ground level against the new infected that you will be facing and all that. And there's finally a little small section called the Antennae area, which you kind of only visit one time. You can go back to it, but it's nowhere near as cool as the first time because it's all raining and stormy there, and I love that shit. The graphics, there's only one time where I've witnessed they kind of drop, and that's usually after you go through a whole loading process, whether you go up the elevator tower or go into a specific building, not just like a regular building, and there has to be a loading screen. Sometimes it takes a minute or two for the graphics to load up, but I'm not going to really chalk it up against it. Gameplay-wise, this game borrows several elements from other games. Of course, clearly most of the influence is from Dead Island, the weapon system, the modifying system, and all of that, and pretty much almost all the zombies except for 1 or 2 different mutation variants are all pretty much a reskin of Dead Island enemies. And they've taken other elements such as Assassin's Creed is a surprising one because garbage bags and all that are now the new hay bales in this game. But getting into more of the combat details and all, the combat and everything feels smooth. I personally turned off auto-aim on both my weapons and melee weapons. I didn't want any of that interfering with me, and it felt smooth. Contacts felt real, and all that. The parkour, which is a primary focus of this game, is rather smooth most of the time. Most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, the parkour was functioning properly for myself. For me, I got really used to it really quick. And that is a big difference in how whether or not you can survive. Because you can go toe-to-toe zombies, but if you find yourself quickly surrounded and all that, at a low level, you're pretty much fucked. However, leveling up, first off, all skills are very useful. I didn't find one useless perk. There are perks and all that I did not use, because it wasn't for my playstyle and such, but there's not a worthless one amongst the bunch. And depending on those skills, are going to determine your longevity. If you're surrounded and all that, and you have a two-handed weapon, quick ground pound can save you, or if you got the grappling hook, shooting off into the distance and getting distance between you and the zombies could mean a difference between life or death. Sadly though, while the movement elements as well as the hand-to-hand elements are actually well done, the gunplay is rather not very satisfactory. If you're a major player of games such as Call of Duty, Battlefield, and all that, and you're too used to the more mainstream FPS controls, you're going to be lost for a few minutes on the gun elements once you actually do find one, because the aim down sights is activated by pressing down on the right thumbstick rather than the left trigger. Which I'm kind of used to, because if you've seen some of my videos, I play Rainbow Six, so I'm kind of used to that. But also the gunplay just feels kind of wonky, and a rather annoying element, which I'm going to blend into this, I was going to mention it later, but fuck it, is they rather discourage you from using guns. They're really only useful against humans when you're actually engaging them where they shoot back and you gotta use cover and all that, but against zombies, they generally close the distance quite well unless you're sniping them off from a rooftop. And generating loud noises automatically spawns runners, which I fucking hate runners. I hated them in Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide, and I hate them here. They can climb walls and run at you. They're one of two things that can actually outrun you. And not to mention, when they spawn in from loud noises, they automatically fucking home in on your position, and I hate it. You could sit there, throw a grenade, or something explodes, and then you dart off like a half mile, and they're still chasing you somehow. Didn't even know where you were at, and they still find you. Another element to this game is another little coding sort of thing that happens occurringly, is nighttime becomes much more dangerous to the player. At night, of course, zombies are a little bit more aggressive, but also the main focus is the emergence of a new zombie type called the Volatile. Now, Volatile kind of looks like this hybrid of those vampires you've seen from Blade 2, the ones that got the little mandibles opening up at the bottom and all that, on with the fact that they're zombies on fucking steroids that will chase your ass down and pounce you. And the moment that they are enraged, they will pretty much alert every other zombie in the area, and this entire chase occurs, which the only way to get free is to somehow slaughter them all, which I don't think is really possible. I think I may have done it once or twice, but it's a huge gamble. But the surest way and safest way, of course, is get to a safe house after you somehow manage to lose your tail, either by looking out behind you, throwing some flares, using your UV light and such. But night is an entirely new and different experience, and absolutely makes you think twice about wandering around at night, despite the fact that all your experience and everything is doubled at night. So kind of a risk-reward going on there. I'd say though, early on when you're first doing it, it's definitely ballsy at a low level, but of course as you're a higher level and you kind of learn what to do, you kind of know what to do at night, and it becomes safer, but still as a high level, you gotta watch your ass, otherwise or else your ass will be dead. Getting into the next segment, we have co-op. This game has co-op much like Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide. However, instead of playing separate characters, you all pretty much play clones of Crane, which if you unlock outfits in the game, those are the only way to actually distinguish yourselves from each other. But either way, from the moment you unlock co-op, as far as I can tell, because I haven't completed the campaign on co-op yet, you can play through pretty much the entire campaign with the exception of the last mission, because it gave me a prompt and everything saying, hey, this is solo only, blah 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 blah. But that's pretty kick-ass from what I've played so far, and from what I've seen, it's handled pretty fair so far. I haven't had any issues from the co-op I've played. More elements that are also within co-op in itself, besides being able to do everything in co-op, and I'll say it again, you can do everything in co-op, all the side stuff, all main story. They also have their own separate challenges that can be done, that people can engage, say, they find out who can kill the most zombies, find out who can find the most loot, set a waypoint, see who can get to the waypoint fastest. There's a lot of fun stuff to do if you got friends to do it on. Getting into some of the nitpicky stuff right now, some stuff that I experienced, some others may not experience, things I found kind of annoying, where had one or two specific glitch kind of errors going on about, as instanced by this right here. I also had instances of one or two moments of screen tearing, I believe. Just only a couple times. Also, not really a fan of how zombies are basically ninjas. Can't really hear them sneak up on you. I don't know why zombies are always ninjas in like every zombie verse. Not a fan. Now time for the final verdict of the game. Before I mention the actual scoring for it, I gotta say that this game was actually very fun. It was hard to put down at the end of the day. I had a few days off, so I plowed through a lot of it and got it done pretty much Saturday after getting it on release. And it was very fun. This was a very fun game. And I say it is an 8.5 out of 10. Now, with my scoring, I usually go by whole numbers. The only time I will give a half score, like an 8.5 and all that, is if it's not quite good enough to be the number above it. In this case, it's not quite good enough to be a 9. But it's a very strong 8, and enough to like set it apart from other 8s that I would say or so. Now this may vary with some depending on how you feel about the game, such as most of the side stuff are fetch missions and all that, and you're an errand boy. But in actuality you are an errand boy anyway, you're trying to earn your keep in the tower and etc. And it'll vary on also your experiences, whether or not you have more graphical shit occur, or lag issues with co-op and all that. This game is not everyone's cup of tea, but I would say pick it up at some point. If you're not getting any other big AAA titles in the next couple of months, Evolve or Mortal Kombat or so, I'd say pick this up. Or if you want to wait for the price drop, wait until summer. I still don't believe we have anything slated for summer, so that's going to be boring. So pick it up then. Maybe have your friends try it out with you and all that. Have them decide to get it and have some fun. It's got tons of co-op stuff to it. It's got replay value attached to it. Explorability that you might not find stuff in certain segments in the map. But that's going to go ahead, that's going to end the video here. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun YouTube-y jazz stuff. And as always, you're welcome to come back over to GamingHouse for more gameplay and commentary.